Hey everyone, and welcome to RAD TV, live at 5:25. My name is Elise Greaves, and I'll be hosting this evening. And I'm here with our guests, Grant Taylor and Dustin Tanner. Both are Rights and Democracy members, and we'll be talking about all of the exciting things that have happened since our show last month and things that are coming up. So thank you for tuning in. So going back to the Democratic National Convention, which happened late last month, Bernie's endorsement of Hillary Clinton left a lot of people wondering what the next steps are for this political revolution that he's been talking about throughout his campaign, and where the energy for the movement and the people who had gotten involved as a result, where that will go. And so Rights and Democracy has been really focused on continuing that in Vermont and New Hampshire. And the past couple of weeks have highlighted what we can do both statewide and nationally to move this forward. So one of our members, Erin Stilson-Wolf, actually went down to the DNC last month, and we have some photos of her down there. She was supposed to be here with us tonight to give a report back, but unfortunately was unable to make it. But based on what she has talked about, and she wrote up a blog that you can find on our website, radvt.org. It was a really exciting and positive time, and she met a bunch of great people from all over the country who are down to build this movement with us. Another, on a statewide level, thing that happened since our last show is the primary. August 9th was the Vermont state primary, and last time we had talked about a lot of our endorsed candidates, and our candidates did very well in the primaries, contested or uncontested. And in contested primaries, David Zuckerman won the Democratic nomination for Lieutenant Governor. Our two choices for Chittenden County Senate, Debbie Ingram and Chris Pearson, won the two open seats in a very competitive race. And for House seats, Mari Cordes won her primary down in Addison County, Celine Colburn, Brian Chena up here in Burlington in Chittenden 6-4, and Ray Fields down in Bennington. So many of these candidates are also Rights and Democracy founders and leaders, and these were really exciting results. And now we're looking towards November. So Grant and Dustin, you all were both very involved with Rights and Democracy during the primary, have gotten to know our candidates. And so, I'm wondering what your thoughts are about, what this means.
Well, I think it was a very good night for RAD and a very good night for the political revolution. A lot of pundits had talked about how Bernie's message would be received back home if none of the candidates he endorsed didn't win. And I think we kind of shut up those pundits a lot because we won, I want to say 75% of the races that we had contested, or some really high number. It was a really good night for Rights and Democracy, and it shows that the work that we're doing in this state is statewide and not just in Chittenden County, because we had a candidate, like you mentioned, Mari, win her district, and we had some statewide candidates win some races, and that's really big going forward. And it's really nice to see the message spread to the rural parts of the state that don't normally feel included by these groups. What do you think, Grant?
That's a great point, Dustin, actually, that kind of the more rural areas out in our state are feeling motivated to take part in the process. I thought it was really great to see so many of RAD's endorsed candidates win the nominations in their races. I think it really shows that the establishment is getting shook a little bit on a local level now after all of the fire from the Bernie's bid for president, political revolution, summer kind of seemed to dwindle a little bit. I'm really excited to see what happened here locally on our primary.
Another thing about locally is that according to the Secretary of State, the voter turnout was the highest since, I believe, 2000. It was the highest in 16 years for a primary. And I know a lot of candidates had been worried about the fact that the primary was on August 9th, and everybody's kind of out of the state during that time, and everybody was predicting very low turnout, very low voter turnout, and we actually had some really good numbers. Still not where it's ideal to be for a state, but better than everyone thought, which is really encouraging to see as we move towards November, that people are, adhering to the message and getting out and realizing that your vote matters. Your one vote I know a candidate whose recall just got counted today. She lost by 1 vote. Like, 1 vote really matters in the state of Vermont, and you don't think it does because you see this national, on the national level, you look at people like Trump and Clinton's like, my 1 vote's not going to matter for these two. But on the local level, your school boards, your state senate, your state, reps, these votes come down to 40, sometimes 60, sometimes 2. So it was really good to see how people turned out and how RADs candidates did a great job that night, because it's encouraging to see how the work has turned out to results now as we move towards November.
Great. And do you think that the success of, this campaign, obviously we put in a lot of work into these campaigns, and, they ran amazing campaigns and they're all great candidates. To what extent do you feel like Bernie's presidential race has, influenced the races in Vermont?
You want to start on this, Grant, or do you want me to go first?
Go for it.
Bernie's endorsement swung the race for a couple of people. In the lieutenant governor race between David Zuckerman and Shap Smith, that race was coming down to the very last week. The VPR poll released beforehand kind of had them neck and neck, and there's some good 7 Days articles on it. But, we don't know how much that endorsement swung that race, but Bernie coming home and endorsing people like Mari, Celine, and a whole nother handful of candidates that are also RAD endorsed candidates really, solidified the message for some of these people and helped them get 100 to 200 votes in some places where they probably would not have gotten before, because Bernie's name has gotten, everybody in our state, we've all known Bernie. We've all known the work he's done and how great he's been to everybody. But now the nation gets it, and it's a nationwide poll now. So the Bernie endorsement's always been something that's been sought after too in political elections. It's always been a big endorsement, but this year it's the biggest it ever was because he ran for president and he had all that national, coverage and that national attention on him. And it's probably the biggest endorsement in the state this cycle, and that's big, for some of the candidates to get that endorsement. It really swung the race for some of the people we had endorsed.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you have anything you want to add, or?
No, a little bit. I guess he's just really helping to guide the message as we move forward, and not really lose sight of those main goals that he started to get us all so fired up about.
Absolutely. And I mean, going off of that, 200 people on Wednesday night showed up to watch him kick off the Our Revolution, which is, a new organization that's pushing forward on a lot of the things that he's been talking about throughout his presidential campaign and these issues to harness the energy that it's created. And so Rights and Democracy helped organize that. Like I said, huge crowd came out for that, and it was streaming live to thousands of watch parties across the country. So that was really exciting. We were all in the audience. Is there anything that you'd like that you got out of the Our Revolution event that?
The Our Revolution event, it was really good to see. Bill, I showed up. I saw Bill McKibben speak. I saw he introduced Marie Cordes. Marie Cordes got to introduce Bernie Sanders, and everyone kind of re-announcing this new campaign seemed to reinvigorate the political revolution as it kind of seemed to disappear, and people acted like it was a little murky after the national primary. As we head for November, I think we just got a little shot in the arm to boost it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the thing about it was that everybody's been wondering what's next, right? And a lot of people like me, I've done political work since I've turned 18 now, so I've seen these back rooms, and people are saying, well, he's going to run, and it's just going to fizzle out, and it's going to turn into nothing. And Our Revolution is going to hopefully turn that into something where 2 years from now in the midterm elections, we have this type of momentum going when we need to re-elect the people like, Mari and these candidates that are not establishment candidates, that don't have that firepower behind them. And it's really hopeful to see how it turns out, because now we have a base, we have a base for a strong political group that did pretty well. Bernie did pretty well for a candidate who was polling at less than 1% when he announced. He said he was running for president outside of a meeting in Washington. 4 people were there. And now we have a standing room only room when he's announcing to over, 200,000 people were watching, I think, And it's amazing to see how we've gone from 4 or 5 reporters and then maybe a bunch of Vermonters on the waterfront to nationwide, people in Arizona, California, New Hampshire, New York, Wisconsin, Wyoming, like all across the United States tuning in to watch this. And it's going to be really interesting to see how this momentum, from this revolution event goes forward, because they're targeting everything. They're not targeting saying, all right, we're going to endorse these couple of candidates. They're doing ballot initiatives and a whole bunch of other stuff where, they're moving forward, and they're going to move forward with school boards, ballot initiatives, upper level races, lower level races, and everybody's going to be included in this. And in the political process, it's really hard to feel included. I personally have felt, excluded sometimes because of the way I grew up. And now Bernie's revolution will hopefully bring all those people in, and hopefully bring more young people in too, because he did have the best showing of any candidate with people under the age of 30. So.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Good seeing people get involved.
Yeah,
Great.
it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like our Revolution event too, really drove this message home of we need to have a strategy through November, but also after that. This movement isn't going to end with the presidential election. It's obviously
It's a movement.
It's a
and
movement.
Not a flash in the pan.
Exactly. It's going to continue growing, and we're going to actually change what's happening on a statewide, local, and national level. So that's really exciting. And in Vermont, Rights and Democracy just kicked off actually Wednesday night this Vermont Political Revolution voter pledge card. So this is a new campaign that's pretty much all encompassing of do one of you guys want to hold it? It's all encompassing of the issues that we're working on.
There we go. Higher. They wanted you to hold it higher.
Yes, well, thank you, Grant. And it lays out, what the political revolution actually means. I feel like that term is thrown around a lot, and it's not only about people getting involved and bringing new people into the process, but it's also about having them come into the process to fight for issues like livable wages, paid family medical leave, 100% renewable energy, clean water, energy democracy, dismantling structural oppression, and all that stuff, getting money out of politics. And so this is a fight that's going on, specifically in Vermont, New Hampshire through Rights and Democracy, but also these are issues that people have been talking about for decades and fighting for, even before Bernie Sanders ran for president. And so I'm wondering, what issues that are in this platform are key for each of you, and why you're involved in these fights. What experiences have you had that have brought you to this place of showing up and being really involved with our organization, with a lot of these movements happening across Vermont?
I mean, Grant and I we actually have kind of similar stories, but different stories, because you worked in construction, so you've seen firsthand. And I've been a family member of somebody who worked in construction. My mother used to be a flagger. She went to work. My stepfather was at his last day of job in 2001, and my mom went to work after that and supported our family on one income. And as well as I do that construction doesn't really pay the bills for what you have to put into your body, as far as, my mom would stand on her feet for 12 hours a day for $10 an hour. And trying to feed a family of 4 on that, it became harder and harder and harder. And that's why raising the minimum wage is a big issue for me. Many people who are proponents to against the minimum wage don't realize that during the middle of December, you're cutting firewood because you're out of fuel. We're out of oil. We have nothing to put in our furnace, so we have a wood stove, and we're out at 5 a.m. cutting wood because we can't afford it. It's either food or fuel. You either go hungry or you go cold. And there's a lot of families in Vermont that are struggling with that at this moment. There's a lot of families that are choosing between medication or do I get my kid a backpack for school. And I think we need to raise the minimum wage, because you have all these people who are now working at places like McDonald's, Burger King, and jobs that your Maple Fields is. Your jobs is where you don't think they're worth $15 an hour, but the work they're doing is. I worked at a convenience store for
about a year, and the amount of work that I did to make sure you got your coffee, you got your gas, you got your food is definitely worth $15 an hour. And people were like, well, I don't want somebody who's flipping a burger making $15 an hour. I don't understand what goes into that. And the fact that, you know, these people are out here taking whatever job they can to just support their family. Like, nobody wakes up and says, I'm going to take the worst job I possibly can because I want to make the lowest wage. They do it because they got starving kids at home, they got a wife, they got a husband, they got people that they need to support. And, you know, raising the minimum wage to a living wage is the ultimate goal, but we got to start somewhere. We got to get to 15. 15 in this state, it's still not a great number because it works out to about, what, $30,000 a year, which is okay in Vermont. It's not great, but we have to get everybody up to that baseline because companies are making cash over fist. And, you know, every company in Vermont that is not a mom and pop store can afford to raise the minimum wage. Walmart can pay $15 an hour. Like, Costco only does pay $15 an hour for the most part. And if all these companies come together and raise the wage, then you get more money in the economy too, because now I can go shop at the mom and pop store because I don't have to buy the cheapest possible option. And it's a circle. It's a vicious circle where you don't have enough money, you're on state assistance, so you then cost the taxpayers more. You cost the taxpayers more. People in Vermont complain about their taxes. Well, you know how we're going to get that down? By making it so everybody can get off the system themselves, because if you go out and get a job, you get paid what you're worth. And that's, why I care so strongly, because there's so many so many holidays where, on Christmas I'd say, yeah, I don't need those gifts because I have a little sister. Like, I sacrificed so much for my family because I understood that my mom would stand on her feet for 60 hours a week, and that would be so we could pay the fuel bill, we could pay the, taxes on the house, we could pay all our bills, and still there's probably $60 left at the end of the week where you have to feed a family of 4, 7 meals, and living paycheck to paycheck is something, I don't remember the last time I was in a place where I wasn't living paycheck to paycheck personally, and I work a lot, I work hard, man. And that's why I believe you gotta have $15 an hour, at least $15 an hour. And your construction experience.
Yeah. I mean, I noticed a lot of the same things. It's not, you don't get the best wages in construction. I found the real way to live on my salary, on my hourly wage, was to work those hours of overtime. Maybe 500 hours of overtime in a year, in a calendar year. That brought the money in, but what was the quality of life for that person? Not just me, but anybody who's in that situation. Personally, in my years of construction, I saw one of our tenants here in the Vermont Political Revolution voter platform here. So we were just talking about Raise Up Vermont, which is trying to raise the minimum wage and treat workers better. We also have Jobs, Justice, Climate, a portion of the platform that is really looking to connect the future of green jobs with the employees of our state. In construction, I've seen conflict between getting the job done and protecting wetlands or protecting our water sources. And I don't think that the environment and our economy and our jobs can continue to be a conflict if we're going to get anywhere with environmental conservation or combating climate change and really helping to clean up water sources for people. There's a lot of issues, and I'm really excited that this is part of the platform, because I think that's going to help to bridge this giant gap that we're seeing right now.
And you look at some of the other things in this, this political revolution platform. You look at creating a fair and equitable tax policy. That's what we need. Everybody in Vermont wants to complain about, well, my taxes are high, well, my taxes are high. Well, what are we paying for? We need to pay for the right things, and we need to be able to invest in our Vermont state colleges. I have a lot of friends who've gone to Johnson. I've had a lot of friends who go to Linden, and those places are really behind the curve on technology. Like, they're still using old computers at Johnson because their budgets have not gone up at all. Like, you look at the Vermont State College system of Linden, Johnson, Castleton University now, and Vermont Tech, and you look at places where we should be investing. We need to invest in our youth. You know, I went to college for a couple years at CCB, and I didn't do well because I didn't have the resources available to me. And I think as a state, you know, you look at this platform and it's just simple things that should just happen. Like, we shouldn't have to get the money out of politics, but we have to. And we've had some candidates who, John Bauer ran a couple years ago. He did not eventually end up running because he was trying to get his campaign publicly financed, and he couldn't get to the deadline. You know, he couldn't get the money at the time to do public financing. And if you look at public financing, we just spent over $1 million in the governor race. And on the Dem side for the primary, it was over $1 million. And public financing is some really low number, like $10,000 total or something, where it makes it so you cannot run a political campaign. So what do? You go to businesses, you go to big money donors, and you say, give me $4,000, or form a PAC and give me $10,000. And it's not fair to all of us sitting at this table, because I don't think any of us have $10,000 just to give to a candidate on the, you know, just laying around. Because if I did, I certainly, you know, I'd probably be on an island right now in Hawaii, actually, to be quite honest with everybody here. And there's a lot of people whose their voices are not being heard because of the money in politics. And, you know, there's a lot of people who are falling through the cracks because our school system, you know, and it's a great campaign for everybody who wants to actually make a difference too.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah. So how do people go about, you know, like getting involved, or like what's the way that we're going to make all this stuff happen in Vermont and nationally? I mean.
Well, I mean, in Vermont, we're going to knock on each other's doors, and I'm going to hold this up and tell everybody to come find one of these and sign one of these. Go to RAD. It's RAD VT, right?
RADVT.org.
RADVT.org is a great place to go. Or just find Isaac wherever he might be, or Elise wherever she might be. I got involved in RAD because my former state rep was like, you want to moderate a debate? And I was like, sure. But I know, you know, a lot of people are wondering, a lot of young people are wondering, I am disenfranchised by the political process. I hate the two-party system. I feel like my voice doesn't matter. Well, if you want your voice to matter, I got the nice little postcard for you right here where you can sign up on radvt.org or fill one of these out, and your voice does matter in these rooms. And your voice matters when we're endorsing candidates. Your voice matters when we're out door knocking. And we actually have another event coming up. This is Between Rights and Democracy and Our Revolution. It's a Labor Day. This is on Labor Day, right?
That's on Labor Day.
This is on Labor Day. It is a party. We're celebrating. It's the first RAD's 1-year anniversary of being an organization, and there's going to be food and music, and it's gonna be great. I would encourage everybody. Oh, they're showing it. I would encourage everybody to come to that because it's a free event too, right?
Where and when?
Yeah.
Middlebury. So the event is at the Middlebury Town Green on Monday, September 5th from 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock. And there's going to be Lulu ice cream and Lick Skillet, and for food. Bernie Sanders just confirmed he was coming to this too.
Bernie's going to be there. So it's
the man, the myth.
It's going to be awesome. Live music.
Bob McKenzie Band, Julie Wynn, and we're going to have some guest speakers. And we have awesome posters. The poster is...
It's beautiful.
Brad makes some awesome posters.
Come get yourself a poster.
Yeah, come get yourself a poster. Come for the poster, stay for the revolution.
Stay for the revolution.
Stay for the democracy, one poster at a time. But yeah, no, RAD is a great place for young people to get involved, I think.
Great.
Personally, I think they do a great job getting involved with the Vermont Political Revolution voter card, signing up and getting involved with Rights and Democracy. Really shows you a path to getting your voice out to this political system. And it really helps to get some support and to organize this constituency of people who we're all kind of looking for the same thing, but we don't have a lot of time every day to research all these candidates and to think about exactly where everybody stands on everything. Rights and Democracy is doing a really great job through the endorsement process of putting pressure on political candidates to say what they mean, and we give them support. A year or two down the road, if they're not performing, there's other candidates. But it's just been the best connection to feeling the power that we have as an individual that I've found.
And another thing to think about with the Rights and Democracy folks is that it feels like one big family. You know, like I can see you on the street and we can have a 20-minute conversation just out of random, because we just see each other and we all feel like a group, and it's really nice because I've done a lot of political work, like I've mentioned. You never really get that group feeling. You get that, okay, we're here to accomplish the goal, and we're all going to go home to our lives and be separate people and not care about each other. With RAD, it's different though. Like, we all care about each other. I can send Elise a text message at 2 a.m. and say, this is awful right now, help me. Or, and I'll get a text message back. And it's something to laugh about. But in politics, where people are, feeling like their voice doesn't matter, that's a big thing. And, personally, I think it's the best group in the state of Vermont to join. And now that, the endorsement's a big endorsement too, because as a candidate, we won a lot of races. Like, it's a big endorsement to have, and they also have a great logo too. I cannot say enough good things about RAD personally. RAD actually helped me get a job on a campaign too, through the ability to volunteer and meet with some candidates too, which is awesome. So, right. Anything else you want to mention, Elise?
Well, thank you both for your kind words about rights and democracy. I'm an employee, so of course I'm on board. But I really do think, and you both touched on this, that bringing people together to build collective power is the way that we're going to make this stuff happen in Vermont. Bernie's been talking about nationally, and with this new group, Our Revolution, coming together is, the way that we're also going to make things happen on a national level. So that's really exciting. So there are a lot of things coming up. Like Dustin mentioned, the Middlebury Labor Day. We got that poster again. So that is happening on September 5th, which is Labor Day, the 1-year anniversary of Rights and Democracy. Food vendors, free event,
music.
Free music. Bernie, other guest speakers. It's not going to be one to miss. And next weekend, on Saturday, we're actually going to be doing some canvassing down in Middlebury, and if you want to in your part of the state, door knocking around the Vermont political revolution voter campaign, and also just getting the word out about Labor Day. So lots of exciting stuff coming up, and continuing the work around Raise Up Vermont and Jobs, Justice, Climate. And also on a local level, the Coalition for a Livable City, and getting an equitable and fair development project happening. So, yeah.
A lot of great stuff going on.
You got any last words?
I just
2 minutes. We found out we got 2 minutes.
If you ever have any questions, go right to the website, radvt.org. It will connect you with everything you want to know about what we're doing and what's going on.
And also, the green shirts are noticeable too. So if you ever see someone wearing a green shirt, just go up to them and ask. I've had a lot of people come up to me with my green shirt on and be like, "What is that shirt?" And it's like, "Oh, let me tell you. Let me get out my clipboard, which I always have handy dandy with me." Even though I'm only a volunteer, I always have a clipboard on me because I've stolen a bunch of clipboards from RAD. Actually, I feel bad about that.
Give those back.
I will get those back when I clean my car, which will be probably next year around March. It's really a cool place to be a volunteer for, and a great group of people.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, well, thank you all for tuning in. Like Dustin and Grant said, we definitely need everyone on board. We need people canvassing. We need people who are, experts in their fields, and we need just average, everyday people to stand up with us and make these things happen in Vermont and New Hampshire. We have a New Hampshire chapter as well. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to continuing working with you. And if you would like to get involved, definitely, come talk to me or visit radvt.org/member, and we can get you signed up there.